Shabbat shalom, everyone. For those of you who don't know who this is, let me introduce you to him. This is the Mensch on the bench. And he's kind of become, he's great. He's kind of become a recent Hanukkah tradition. Some of you might not be familiar with him, but let me assure you, if you're a Jewish kid in America under the age of about 7 probably, you definitely know who he is. He kind of recently became a big deal, and I think he's great. He comes with a book, as you can see, that tells the Hanukkah story. So you read the book to kids and they can understand the plight of the Maccabees. And then he explains how to light the Hanukkah. I think he's pretty cute. He's educational. So now you know the Mensch on the bench. As a side note, this Friday, our shul is going to have a community Hanukkah lighting. So if you have a Hanukkah in your home that is special to you that you'd like to bring and light with your Agudas family, please bring it, and we'll all light them together, which I think will be really special. And at this Hanukkah lighting, there will be a special guest, the Mensch on a bench, live in person. Now, I don't know who the Mensch on the bench is, but I can tell you that he's about my height and my build. Some say that he bears a strong resemblance to me. I hear he's actually incredibly handsome. Okay, I'm glad my kids aren't in here. I'm going to dress up like the Mensch on the bench. In fact, the other day, when Sammy and I were planning this event, she quickly realized that this whole event is really just an excuse for me to dress up as the Mensch on the bench. Because, if I'm being honest, there's something magical about putting on a character costume for the kids. You might recall earlier this year, I was Willy Wonka for Purim, and it was great because when the kids see you in costume, their eyes light up, they get so excited, and there's a magic that exists, if even for just a moment. Jewish tradition is totally aware of the magic and really the power, or even sometimes the dangerous power that exists in putting on a costume or changing your clothes or wearing a mask. As I mentioned in a sermon a couple weeks back, we, the Jewish people, are called Bnei Yisrael, not Bnei Avraham, but Bnei Yisrael, which really means that we are the children of Yaakov, of Jacob. It even says this in the Amidah, we're Bnei Yaakov. And if there's anyone who knows about the dangerous power of the costume, it's Jacob. You might recall a couple Parshiot ago, it was Jacob who was the one that put on a costume. He put on goat skins and pretended to be his hairy brother Esau, so that he could deceive his father Isaac into giving him Esau's blessing. And now in this week's Parsha, Vayeshev, Jacob is going to kick things off with the Joseph story by giving Yosef a costume. He's going to give him a multicolored, beautiful, striped coat as a sign that he loves Joseph more than all of his other sons. I'd argue probably most people are familiar with the Joseph story. There's a really great musical about it. And this story, in fact, the Joseph story, is the longest continuing narrative about a single character in our Torah. But within the Joseph story, it's actually right before what we read this morning in our Parsha, is this seemingly random alternate story about Joseph's brother, Yehuda, Judah. And this tale is so provocative And honestly, it's a bit strange. It doesn't seem to get the bandwidth that the rest of the story does. Let me put it this way. I don't think I've ever seen this story in a children's Bible. In this story, we're told that Judah moves away. He gets married and has several sons. And the oldest of his sons marries a woman named Tamar. However, we're told Judah's oldest son is wicked, so God kills him. So according to the law of Levirate marriage, which the Torah will introduce later, the next oldest brother is required to marry Tamar, which he does. But he likewise does an evil act, which I will not talk about this morning, so God kills him as well. Well, you know that age-old expression, fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me? Judah thinks to himself, I don't want my third son to marry this girl Tamar and have him mysteriously die as well. So instead of arranging the marriage to his third oldest son and Tamar, he simply tells his daughter-in-law to remain a widow while he secretly has no intention of marrying her off to his next son in line. Now, what happens in the story next is very interesting. We're told Judah's wife dies, and Tamar hatches a plan for her own financial and communal security. She puts on a costume. And the costume that she puts on is that of there's no nice way of saying this, of that of a prostitute. Now, I don't know what a prostitute costume looks like. Maybe she got it from Spirit Halloween. We don't really know exactly what she does other than the Torah says she covers her face, which in antiquity would have been a sign that you were a woman of the night. Anyway, she seduces Judah into sleeping with her, and as temporary payment, she gets his official seal. Now, in antiquity, that would have been like his driver's license or his passport back then. Months later, it is announced that Tamar is pregnant. She claims it's Judah's child. And when Judah finds out that his daughter-in-law has been playing the harlot, he orders her to be burned. However, on her way to the executioner, she displays his seal to everyone, calling him out for sleeping with her. Oi. And what does he do? He kind of says, well, aw shucks, and admits that he was in the wrong for not arranging her marriage to his son. Now, that is quite the costume story for Jacob's family. But the deception through clothing does not end there. Because in several more weeks from now, we'll read another story about Joseph's masquerade. As you probably know, in the Joseph story, Joseph, this morning, he interprets Pharaoh's dreams. Or I guess this morning he interpreted the cupbearer's dream, the baker's dream. Next week he'll interpret Pharaoh's dream about the upcoming famine. Joseph will get promoted to second in command of all of Egypt. And later the Torah will tell us that Joseph is brought to Pharaoh. He gets his head shaved, and he will be adorned with all the clothing of ancient Egyptian royalty, which we know now from archaeology and from history would have included vast amounts of makeup and jewelry, and typically a wig. They shaved their heads and they wore wigs. Joseph will look so different, in fact, that toward the conclusion of the story, when he's finally reunited with the same brothers that sold him, he is utterly unrecognizable to them. His own family can't tell that the Egyptian commander standing in front of them is their own brother Joseph. Now, this deception of him dressing up like an Egyptian causes both parties, him and his family, a lot of pain. We're told that Joseph wails, he cries loudly when he finally reveals his true identity to his own family. When his mask is finally taken off, only then can Jacob and his sons begin the healing process of becoming a family again with Joseph. So you see, dear friends, there can be a lot of pain and hardship that comes with putting on a disguise, or there can be a lot of joy and happiness that can come from putting on a costume. It really all depends on which mask it is that we decide to wear. Friends, as 2024 comes to a close, I want us to think about all the different costumes and metaphorical masks that we had to wear this past year. What costume did we put on when we went to work? What mask did we put on in front of our family? What garment did we wear to make people happy? What face did we wear to deceive others? Now, please note, I'm not accusing, because I think in every life it's oftentimes necessary to disguise oneself, at least temporarily. But I wonder, had Jacob not been the first one to put on a costume, could all of this costumed calamity been avoided in his family? If there's anything to be learned from all of these adventures in disguise, it's that God, the true judge, sees through all of our deception. God knows the true nature of our hearts because he is the creator who created us, who knows us intimately. Whatever mask we try to put on in front of him is easily seen through. There is truly no hiding from the divine. So as we roll into a holiday next week that proclaims light in times of darkness, I suggest that if we do decide to dress up, if we do decide that we have to put on a mask, perhaps it should be to make peace with one another. If your in-laws are coming over to light the Hanukkah and you're feeling particularly grumpy, maybe it's okay to wear a fake smile for the sake of Shalom Bayit. Or if there are kids coming to your shul, maybe it's okay to wear a fake gray beard for an hour. Hey, at least I'm not saying ho, ho, ho. At the end of the day, friends, we all wear costumes. We all wear masks. But as long as we recognize that we can't hide from God, our own self will shine true. Shabbat Shalom.